She just said the one thing about being Caitlin Clark that nobody expected her to admit out loud. And 24 hours later, an ESPN analyst went on national television and told her it still wasn't enough. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly why one sentence from a Sunday morning debate show turned into the loudest week women's basketball has had all season, why longtime fans are now calling for a job to be lost, and why the answer to all of it traces back to something Caitlin Clark said with a completely straight face at All-Star Weekend. Stay with me because the last part of the story is the part almost nobody is talking about yet. Before we get into it, if this is your first time here, welcome to the channel. We cover Caitlin Clark and the WNBA every single week, breaking down what actually happened versus what the headlines are screaming at you. If you want to stay ahead of every one of these stories, hit subscribe and tap the bell because the next update on this exact situation is coming fast. Now, let's get into it. All-Star Weekend was supposed to be a celebration. The 2026 WNBA All-Star Weekend wrapped up in Chicago at the United Center, and on paper, it was exactly what the league wanted. Two star-studded rosters, Team Coop and Team Spoon, put on a show in front of a packed building, with Team Spoon coming out on top in a wild 129-122 finish. Caitlin Clark was right in the middle of it, starting for Team Coop, doing what she always does when the cameras are on her, which at this point in her career is basically every single second she is on a basketball court. But the moment that actually defined the weekend did not happen during the game. It happened during a media session, when Clark was asked a simple question about what it is actually like to live inside the storm that follows her everywhere she goes. And for once, she did not give the polished, coached, say-nothing answer. She gave a real one. What Caitlin Clark actually said here is the part everyone is now quoting back and forth at each other online. Clark told reporters that she does feel happiness, she does feel joy, and she genuinely experiences all of it when she is out there playing. But she also said something a lot more honest than fans are used to hearing from her. She explained that she has developed thick skin and that she constantly has to remind herself that social media is not reality, adding that this simple fact seems to get lost on a lot of people. Read that again. That is not a rehearsed soundbite. That is a 24-year-old telling the entire basketball world on the record that the noise around her has gotten loud enough that she has had to build armor just to function. For a player who almost never lets the mask slip in public, that is a big deal, and it set up everything that happened next. Then Monica McNutt went on air. One day later, on the Sunday show Women's Sports Sundays, ESPN analyst Monica McNutt was asked to react to what Clark had said. And instead of simply sympathizing with a 24-year-old who just admitted the pressure is real, McNutt pushed in a completely different direction. She said that while she understands the emotional weight Clark is carrying, she would like to see, in her words, more accountability and self-awareness from Clark about her role in what McNutt called the larger sisterhood of the WNBA. Think about the timing here. Clark opens up about how hard this has all been. And the very next day, instead of the conversation being about support, it becomes about what more Clark supposedly owes everyone else. That is the spark, and it did not take long for it to turn into a fire. The internet did not hold back. Clark's fan base, which is one of the largest and most engaged in the entire sport, did not take the accountability comment well. Social media lit up almost instantly. One fan fired back directly, asking why McNutt gets to decide who Clark's sisterhood even is, and pointing out that Clark should not be expected to show loyalty to a group of players who have, in that fan's words, openly targeted or criticized her. Another fan went further, arguing that McNutt was essentially blaming Clark for the behavior of strangers online, and asked pointedly what kind of hate Clark has actually had to absorb before demanding more accountability from her. And then came the comment that really escalated things. One fan connected McNutt's remarks to something that happened just 1 week earlier, when a national outlet published a column that invoked the name of Emmett Till while discussing Clark, and the topic of flopping. That comparison had already drawn heavy criticism across the basketball world. So when McNutt's accountability comment landed right on top of it, some fans read it as part of a pattern and openly called for her to be included in ESPN's recent round of layoffs. Now, to be clear, that is fan reaction, not a fact about McNutt's job status, but it tells you exactly how much heat this single comment generated in less than 48 hours. This is where it gets bigger than one. Comment: here is the part I promised you at the start of this video. Because this fight is not really about one analyst and one quote. It is about a pattern that has followed Caitlin Clark since the day she entered the league, where the conversation around her keeps drifting away from basketball and into something else entirely. Just days before the McNutt comment, Clark was dealing with an on-court incident of her own. During a July 22nd game against the Connecticut Sun at Gainbridge Fieldhouse, Sun forward Diamond Miller was hit with a technical foul for contact on Clark after the whistle had already blown. That is the kind of physical, after-the-play treatment Clark has dealt with since her rookie season, and it is a big part of why she was being asked about pressure and criticism in the first place. The physicality on the floor, the noise off it, and now an analyst asking her to somehow manage the feelings of an entire league, all in the same stretch of 1 week. So when people say this story is bigger than basketball, that is not an exaggeration. It is the actual timeline. Quick reminder before we keep going. If you are finding this breakdown useful, drop a comment telling me whether you think McNutt's comment was fair criticism or completely out of line. I read every single one, and honestly, some of the best context in these stories comes from you guys in the comments. Now, back to the story. Because there is a part of this that connects directly to what is actually happening on the court, and the numbers might surprise you. What Clark has actually been doing on the floor. Let's ground this in the basketball, because it is easy to lose that in all the noise. Clark is coming off a brutal 2025 season where soft tissue injuries limited her to just 13 games, a stretch that started with a quadriceps strain in May and ended with a groin injury in July that shut her season down early. Even in those limited appearances, she still averaged 16.5 points, 8.8 assists, 5.0 rebounds, and 1.6 steals a night, and she still made the All-Star team. This season has been a completely different story. On July 17th, Clark dropped 45 points in a win, becoming the fastest player in league history to reach 200 career three-pointers in the same game. 4 days later, on July 21st, she was named Eastern Conference Player of the Week, the second time this season she has earned that honor. And in between, she helped lead the Fever past the Liberty with a 20-point win, adding 17 points alongside a 33-point night from teammate Kelsey Mitchell. There is even a legitimate MVP conversation building around Indiana's roster right now, with analysts debating whether Clark, Aaliyah Boston, or Kelsey Mitchell has the strongest case. That alone tells you how far this Fever team has come. And before this WNBA season even started, Clark suited up for Team USA at the FIBA Women's World Cup qualifying tournament, helping the team go 5-0 while earning MVP honors of the tournament herself. So while the internet is arguing about accountability and sisterhoods, the actual basketball answer is simple. Caitlin Clark is playing some of the best basketball of her career on both ends of the injury recovery and the box score. Here is the question nobody is asking yet. And this is the part I want you to really sit with, because it is the piece almost nobody is connecting on the internet right now. Every single time Clark has a genuinely vulnerable human moment in public, the response from a certain corner of sports media has not been support. It has been a demand for more from her. More accountability, more awareness, more emotional labor directed at everyone else in the league. Meanwhile, the players actually hitting her after the whistle, the columnists reaching for comparisons that draw immediate backlash. None of that seems to generate the same instant call for accountability that Clark herself receives the moment she admits she is human. That double standard is exactly why this story has not died down, and why it likely will not die down anytime soon. Because it is not really about Monica McNutt. It is about whether the biggest star this league has ever produced is allowed to just say she is tired without that turning into a referendum on her character. Where this goes next. So what happens now? ESPN has not issued any statement walking back McNutt's comments, and there is no indication this becomes a formal controversy inside the network. But the fan pressure is real. The comparisons to last week's Emmett Till column are not going away quietly, and every future Monica McNutt appearance discussing Clark is going to be watched under a microscope after this. On Clark's side, all signs point to her doing exactly what she has always done, letting her play on the court do most of the talking, while continuing to be more emotionally candid in interviews than she was during her rookie and sophomore seasons. The real story to watch going forward is whether this shifts how sports media covers her for the rest of the season, or whether we are back here in 2 weeks talking about the exact same cycle with a different name attached to it. Either way, this is not the last time this conversation is going to come up, and when it does, we will be the ones breaking it down for you before anyone else does. So that is the full picture behind one of the loudest weeks women's basketball has had all season, from what Caitlin Clark actually said at All-Star Weekend, to the comment that set off the internet, to the numbers that tell the real story underneath all of it. If you made it this far, you already know this story is not finished. There is more coming out of this exact situation within the next few days, and I am not going to let you miss it. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and I will see you in the next one.